Let's talk about this mass shooting that happened in Chicago, this rapper party. It was supposed to be a celebration, the kind of night that marks a career for a rising star in a genre born from the streets that she rapped about. On July 2nd, 2025, Chicago rapper Mello Bucks, real name Melanie Doyle, was hosting a private party for her new album. Friends and family packed into the artist's restaurant and lounge in the city's River North neighborhood. Phone cameras were set up capturing the energy and the excitement. But just after 11 p.m., after the party spilled onto the sidewalk, the celebration was shattered by automatic gunfire.
Three shooters pulled up in a black SUV and opened fire as people were leaving an album release party, as many of them were pouring out of this lounge.
A dark colored vehicle drove by, and the shooters unleashed a hail of bullets into the crowd before speeding into the night.
Traumatized. I'm just shook.
Heard a lot of gunfire, and then and next thing you know is a whole bunch of police officers driving by fast, ambulance, fire and rescue.
This was such a chaotic scene, and when the chaos cleared, a first responder called the scene a war zone. That is how they described this shooting.
Absolute chaos, from people screaming to blood on the streets to people laying on the streets.
Shoes, phones, and blood littered the pavement. In total, 20 people were hit. 20 people were hit when they unloaded. And of those people injured, 5 of them died. Among the dead were Melo Bucks' boyfriend, Devontae Williamson, and her best friend. It was a targeted, devastating attack that left a city reeling and raised the most dangerous question in modern music. In the world of Chicago drill, where does the art stop and the violence take over? Now, you can't understand what happened outside that nightclub without really understanding the sound that brought everyone there. Drill music is a subgenre of hip-hop that exploded out of the Chicago South Side in the early 2010s. The sound itself is dark and confrontational, but it's the lyrics that define it. Drill is a raw narration of street life, the poverty, the gang rivalries, the violence that has haunted parts of Chicago for generations. The word drill is local slang for shooting, and early pioneers like Pac-Man and King Louie never apologized for their brutal honesty. But it was a teenager named Chief Keef who launched the sound into the mainstream in 2012 with his breakout hit, I Don't Like. The song and its raw, low-budget video went viral. It was unapologetic, showing kids in a living room waving guns and rapping about real-life beefs. The world was captivated, and a lot of people were terrified. Were they right to be terrified? Probably. We see the aftermath now. Critics and politicians were quick to condemn the genre, calling it theme music for schmurder. Then Mayor Rahm Emanuel even labeled Chief Keef an unacceptable role model and effectively banned him from performing in his own city, claiming his music promoted violence. The debate was set. Was drill just reflecting a violent reality, or was it helping create it? Was it art, or was it a confession? For the artists, many of them young, black, and facing a future with very few opportunities, drill was both. It was a way to document their reality and maybe, just maybe, a ticket out. But that line has always been dangerously thin. The lyrics named specific streets, rival gangs, and friends who've been taken out of this world. In a world where a social media post is a direct insult and rap lyrics can be used in court as evidence, the very authenticity that makes drill so powerful is also what makes it lethal. For a long time, the Chicago drill scene was a man's world. Artists like Little Durk, G Herbo, and the late King Von became its icons. Talented women in the scene often struggle for the same attention, but a new generation has been pushing through, led by a wave of unapologetic female rappers, and right at the front of that movement was Melo Bucks. Hailing from Chicago's East Side, Mello, born Melanie Doyle, hit the scene with an energy and skill you couldn't ignore. Her 2023 breakout hit, Boom, Muscatool, was an anthem of female power in a male-dominated game. and it became a local smash. Soon enough, it caught the ear of superstar Lotto, who jumped on the remix. That collaboration was a huge deal. It connected the Chicago underground to the national stage. Lotto even flew into Mello's neighborhood to shoot the music video. A massive cosign that cemented Melo's status as a real rising star. Drill legend G Herbo featured her on his album and brought her out at major music festivals. Melo Bucks wasn't just a new voice in drill, she was becoming one of the most exciting new voices in all of hip hop. Now, her music stuck to the drill formula. It was gritty, confrontational, and all about her reality, but she brought a new perspective, representing a powerful wave of women taking over the genre. As her fame grew, so did the stakes. Her lyrics, just like the men who came before her, walked that tightrope between performance and reality. The album she was celebrating on July 2nd was supposed to be her masterpiece, the one that took her from local hero to a global name. Instead, it became the backdrop for a tragedy that exposed the genre's darkest paradox. The shooting at Melo Bucks' party, it was horrific, but it wasn't random. It was a targeted situation. And it wasn't the first of its kind. It's another chapter in the brutal history where drill lyrics and diss tracks have been directly linked to real world violence. The culture of beef is central to the genre. Rappers don't just compete on the charts. They engage in deeply personal and often violent rivalries. The most infamous example might be the story of King Von. Von was a master storyteller whose lyrics were like movies, detailing violent acts with chilling precision. Fans love his authenticity, but police and rivals saw his music as a catalog of crimes. His long, bloody feuds with rappers from opposing sets like FBG Duck played out for years on social media and in their songs. They dissed each other's dead friends and made direct threats, building a public story of a war that wouldn't end. A bright sunny day in summertime, August 2020, right smack dab in the pandemic, FBG Duck was shot and taken out in broad daylight in the Gold Coast, one of Chicago's wealthiest neighborhoods. Many immediately pointed to the beef with King Von's crew. Just a few months later, in November 2020, King Von himself was shot and taken out in Atlanta after a fight with a rival rapper's crew. His death was a stark reminder that the violent narratives in the music weren't just stories. The internet pours gasoline on these fires. A diss track goes viral in minutes. A disrespectful tweet gets screenshotted and shared thousands of times. For these artists, the persona they build online and in their music is their reality. To have the street cred means proving the threats in your lyrics aren't just for show. It creates a vicious cycle of provocation and retaliation, where a song becomes a motive and a music video becomes a target. Police have already said the shooting at Melo Bucks' party was targeted. They weren't just shooting at a crowd, they were shooting at her people. An album release party in the world of drill isn't just a party, it's a gathering of allies, a statement of territory, and for your rivals, a perfect opportunity. When everything was over, when the guests walked out, they walked out just after 11 p.m. of the artist lounge, and they stepped right into an ambush. A dark-colored SUV drove past. From inside, the police suspect that there were as many as 3 shooters, and those 3 shooters opened fire. They had both handguns and a rifle. The attack was fast and savage. In just seconds, 20 people were shot and 5 people died. The aftermath was pure chaos. People were screaming, running for cover, or trying to find their friends. One witness said people couldn't even call for help because they dropped their phones and keys and they were just trying to escape. 5 people lost their lives. One of them was 23-year-old Devontae Terrell Williamson, Melo Bucks' boyfriend. The victims were her friends, her circle, the very people who were there to celebrate her. Mello herself reportedly left just before the gunfire erupted and was physically unharmed, but the devastation was absolute. In a series of heartbroken social media posts, she wrote, "My heart broke into so many pieces. We was having so much fun in our private little life. I held your hand until I couldn't." To her friends, she pleaded, "Prayers up for all my sisters. God, please wrap your arms around every last one of them." That same address has a dark history. In 2022, when it was operating as the Hush Lounge, it was the site of another fatal mass shooting and was eventually shut down by the city as a public safety threat. As of now, no arrests have been made, and police are investigating the attack as targeted and likely gang-related. The tragedy at Melo Bucks' party is a painful symbol of the conflict at the heart of drill. The culture produces brilliant raw art that gives a voice to people who are often ignored. It has created stars and become one of Chicago's biggest cultural exports, and that art is tied to a reality of violence that continues to take lives with terrifying regularity. Blaming only the music is too simple. Drill is a symptom of a much bigger problem: poverty, segregation, and trauma that have shaped these neighborhoods for decades. For many young artists, writing violent lyrics isn't a creative choice. It's a reflection of the only world they know. But you can't ignore the fact that the music, amplified by social media, often feeds a cycle of violence where lyrics become taunts, and taunts demand retaliation. When a diss track names real people in real places, the line between entertainment and incitement disappears. What happened on July 2nd wasn't just another news story. It was the catastrophic collision of art and reality, a celebration of life that ended in death. It was a devastating blow to a rising star and her entire community. Melo Bucks' lyrics gave voice to her world, but on that night, the violence chronicled in her music became brutally, irreversibly real. The bullets didn't care about record deals, they just found their targets. The story of Chicago drill music will continue to be debated, and for more stories that are unpacking culture and more news around us, make sure to subscribe.